The wood shavings fell like snow onto Zelda Voss's worn boots as she sat on the porch of her small cabin just outside Fort Stanton, New Mexico, her knife moving with practiced precision across the pine block that would soon become a horse for little Sarah Mitchell's birthday. The summer sun of 1878 beat down mercilessly, but Zelda barely noticed. So absorbed was she in the delicate work of crafting toys that brought joy to the children scattered across this harsh frontier land, where happiness was often as scarce as water in a drought. She had been carving these toys for nearly 3 years now, ever since she arrived in Fort Stanton at 21 years old, alone and grieving the loss of her parents to cholera back in Missouri. The townsfolk had been kind enough, though they found it odd that a young, unmarried woman would choose to live on her own rather than seek employment in one of the more respectable households or quickly find a husband. But Zelda had learned early that her hands were meant for creating things, and the sight of a child's face lighting up when she presented them with a carved dog or rabbit or soldier made the loneliness of her small cabin bearable. The sound of hoofbeats pulled her attention from her work. 3 riders approached from the direction of town, their silhouettes wavering in the heat. Zelda set down her carving and shielded her eyes against the glare, recognizing the lead rider as Sheriff Martin with his distinctive gray mustache. The 2 men flanking him she did not know, though one sat his horse with the kind of easy confidence that suggested he had been born in the saddle. "Miss Voss," Sheriff Martin called out as they drew near, tipping his hat respectfully. "Hope we are not disturbing your work." "Not at all, Sheriff," Zelda replied, standing and brushing the wood shavings from her simple cotton dress. "What brings you out this way? These gentlemen here are the Keller brothers, just arrived from Colorado. This is Travis Keller and his younger brother Marcus. They have taken on the old Henderson ranch, planning to start up cattle operations again. Thought I would introduce them around to the neighbors." Zelda's gaze moved to Travis Keller, and she found herself looking into the most striking pair of green eyes she had ever seen. He was perhaps 25 or 26, with sun-darkened skin and dark brown hair that curled slightly at the collar of his dusty shirt. When he smiled at her, the expression transformed his entire face, turning what might have been merely handsome features into something altogether more captivating. "Madam," Travis said, removing his hat and revealing more of that wavy hair. "Pleasure to meet you." "Likewise, Mr. Keller," Zelda responded, aware that her cheeks were warming and hoping the men would attribute it to the sun rather than the way Travis continued to look at her with unconcealed interest. Marcus, who appeared to be about 22 with similar features but lighter hair, nodded politely. "Nice place you have here, Miss Voss. Looks well kept." "I do my best," Zelda said, "though it is not much compared to a ranch. Travis here has been talking about nothing but starting fresh ever since we left Colorado," Marcus said with a grin that suggested he enjoyed needling his older brother. "New land, new opportunities, maybe even a new—" "That is enough, Marcus," Travis interrupted, though his eyes never left Zelda's face. "What is it you are working on there, Miss Voss? Looks like you are whittling something." Zelda picked up the half-finished horse. "I carve wooden toys for the children in town. This one is meant to be a horse for Sarah Mitchell. She is turning 6 next week." Something in Travis's expression softened. "That is a mighty kind thing to do. I imagine toys are hard to come by out here." "They are," Zelda confirmed. "Most families are struggling just to put food on the table. A toy might seem frivolous, but children need to play, to have some lightness in their lives. This land is hard enough on adults. Children should not have to bear the full weight of it." Sheriff Martin chuckled. "Miss Voss here has become something of a legend among the young ones. I swear half the children in Fort Stanton have one of her carvings." "I would love to see more of your work sometime," Travis said, and there was nothing but genuine interest in his voice. "If you would not mind showing me, that is." Before Zelda could respond, Marcus cleared his throat meaningfully. "We should probably get moving, Travis. Still have to make it to the Thompson place before sundown." Travis looked reluctant but nodded. "Of course." "Miss Voss, I hope we will meet again soon." "I am sure we will, Mr. Keller. Fort Stanton is not such a large place that we can avoid each other for long." As the three men rode away, Zelda found herself watching Travis's retreating form perhaps longer than was proper. She shook her head and returned to her carving, but her mind kept wandering to those green eyes and that warm smile. It had been a long time since any man had looked at her with such open admiration, and she was surprised to find how much she liked it. The following Sunday, Zelda made her weekly trip into town for church services and to pick up supplies. She wore her best dress, a dark blue cotton with small white flowers that she had sewn herself, and took extra care with pinning up her long brown hair. She told herself it had nothing to do with the possibility of seeing Travis Keller again, but she was not particularly convincing even to her own ears. The little church was already filling up when she arrived, families crowding into the simple wooden pews. Zelda greeted the people she knew, stopping to let young Tommy Carter show her how well his carved train engine had held up after 3 months of constant play. She was admiring the boy's gap-toothed grin when she felt someone settle onto the bench beside her. "Hope this seat is not taken," Travis Keller said, and Zelda's heart did an unexpected leap in her chest. "It is open," she managed to say, acutely aware of how close he was sitting, close enough that she could smell the clean scent of soap and leather. "I was hoping I would see you here," Travis said in a low voice as Reverend Patterson took his place at the front. "Been thinking about those toys you carve." "Have you?" Zelda whispered back, trying to focus on the Reverend's opening words and failing completely. "Been thinking about the woman who carves them too," Travis admitted. And when Zelda glanced at him, she saw a hint of color on his cheeks that suggested the admission had not come easily. The service seemed to last both an eternity and no time at all. Zelda heard perhaps 1 word in 10 that Reverend Patterson spoke, too distracted by Travis's presence beside her. The way his arm occasionally brushed against hers, the sound of his voice when they sang hymns. By the time the final prayer was spoken, she felt as wrung out as if she had spent the day hauling water. Outside, the congregation lingered in small groups, catching up on news and gossip. Travis stuck close to Zelda's side, and she noticed more than one curious glance thrown their way. In a small town like Fort Stanton, any new development in anyone's personal life became immediate fuel for speculation. "Miss Voss, might I walk you home?" Travis asked, holding his hat in his hands and looking suddenly uncertain. "Or to the general store if you have shopping to do." "I would like that," Zelda said, meaning it completely. "I do need to pick up a few things at Morrison's store." They walked together down the dusty Main Street, past the saloon and the land office and the small hotel that served the occasional travelers passing through. Travis kept up a steady stream of conversation, telling her about the Henderson Ranch and the work they had been doing to make it operational again, about Marcus and his tendency to get distracted by pretty girls, about their plans to build up a good herd before winter came. "What brought you to Fort Stanton?" Zelda asked as they reached Morrison's general store. "Colorado seems like it would have good ranching land too." Travis's expression clouded slightly. "It does. But our father died last year, and the ranch we had been working went to our older half-brother from our father's first marriage. Marcus and I decided it was time to strike out on our own rather than work for wages on what used to be our home." A friend told us about the Henderson place being available, and it seemed like fate. I am sorry about your father, Zelda said softly. Thank you. What about you? The sheriff mentioned you came from Missouri. Zelda felt the familiar tightness in her chest that always came when she thought about her parents. Cholera took both my parents 3 years ago. I had an aunt here in New Mexico who agreed to take me in, but she passed away from pneumonia just 2 months after I arrived. She left me her cabin and a small bit of money. It has been enough to get by on, along with what I make from sewing and the occasional odd job. Travis stopped walking and turned to face her fully. That must have been incredibly difficult. You were alone in a strange place. It was not easy, Zelda admitted. But I discovered that I was stronger than I thought, and the children here gave me a purpose. When I carved that first toy for Tommy Carter after his father was injured in a mining accident, and I saw how happy it made him, I knew I had found something worth doing. You have a generous heart, Zelda Voss, Travis said, and the use of her first name sent a pleasant shiver down her spine. May I call you Zelda? Only if I can call you Travis. His smile could have lit up the entire New Mexico territory. Deal. Inside Morrison's store, Travis insisted on carrying her basket as she selected flour and sugar and a few other necessities. The proprietor, old George Morrison with his perpetual squint and careful accounts, watched them with poorly concealed interest. Heard you Keller boys are fixing up the Henderson place, Morrison commented as he tallied up Zelda's purchases. That ranch has been sitting empty for nigh on 2 years now. We are working on it, Travis confirmed. Planning to bring in some cattle from Texas next month. Going to take time to build it up properly, but we have time. Youth usually does, Morrison said with a chuckle. That will be $2.30, Miss Voss. Zelda reached for her small coin purse, but Travis was faster, placing coins on the counter before she could protest. Travis, you do not need to, she began. I know I do not need to, he interrupted gently. I want to. Please, Zelda. Let me do this. There was something in his eyes, a sincerity that made her objections die on her lips. She nodded, suddenly feeling shy. Thank you. They walked back to where she had tied her horse, a gentle mare named Clover. Travis loaded her supplies into her saddlebags with efficient movements, then stood there looking at her with an expression she could not quite read. Zelda, I know we have only just met, but I would very much like to call on you properly. Would you allow me to come visit you sometime? Her heart hammered against her ribs. I would like that very much. How about Wednesday evening? I could bring supper, maybe some of those steaks Marcus has been talking about cutting. He thinks he is some kind of expert cook, but between you and me, he burns everything. Zelda laughed, the sound bright and genuine. Wednesday would be lovely, and do not worry about bringing food, I can cook. Then I will bring dessert, Travis declared. There is a bakery in town and I saw they had apple pie. Do you like apple pie? I love apple pie. Then it is settled. Travis helped her mount Clover, his hands steady on her waist. Even through the fabric of her dress she could feel the warmth of his touch. I will see you Wednesday evening, Zelda Voss. I am already counting the days. As she rode back to her cabin, Zelda could not stop smiling. The New Mexico sun seemed less harsh, the landscape less barren. For the first time since arriving in Fort Stanton, she felt something other than resignation about her future. She felt hope. Wednesday evening arrived with agonizing slowness. Zelda spent the intervening days finishing Sarah Mitchell's horse and starting work on a new project, a carved rabbit for the Turner twins who had just turned 4. But her mind was rarely on her work. Instead, she found herself thinking about Travis, replaying their conversations, remembering the way he looked at her. She cleaned her small cabin until it gleamed, swept the porch, picked wildflowers to put in a jar on her table. She made chicken and dumplings, one of her specialties, and biscuits that came out golden and perfect. She changed her dress 3 times before settling on a simple green cotton that brought out the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. When she heard hoofbeats approaching just as the sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, she had to resist the urge to run to the door like an eager child. Instead, she took a deep breath, smoothed her skirts, and walked calmly to greet her guest. Travis looked freshly scrubbed and nervous, holding a basket that presumably contained the promised pie. He had clearly made an effort with his appearance, wearing a clean shirt and vest, his hair still damp and neatly combed. "Zelda," he said, and just the way he spoke her name made her pulse quicken. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. Come in, please." Her cabin was small but tidy, with a main room that served as both kitchen and living area, a tiny bedroom, and not much else. But Zelda had made it cozy with homemade curtains, a colorful quilt on the rocking chair, and shelves lined with her carving supplies and finished toys waiting to be distributed. Travis set his basket on the table and immediately gravitated to the shelves. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the toys. "Of course." She watched as he picked up each piece, examining them with genuine interest. There were horses and dogs, dolls and trains, soldiers and rabbits, even a carved cat that looked remarkably lifelike. His fingers traced the details with surprising gentleness for such large, work-roughened hands. "These are incredible," he said finally. "You have real talent, Zelda. It is just something I enjoy doing. It is more than that." Travis set down the carved cat carefully. "Each of these has personality. This cat looks like it is about to pounce on something, and this dog, it looks happy, like it is wagging its tail. You are not just carving wood, you are breathing life into it." No one had ever said anything like that about her work before. Most people saw the toys as nice, useful things for children, but Travis saw something deeper. She felt her throat tighten with emotion. "That means a lot to me," she managed to say. "I mean it." Travis turned to face her fully. "You know, I do a bit of carving myself. Nothing as fine as this, mostly just practical things, but I have always enjoyed working with wood." "Really? Want me to prove it?" There was a playful challenge in his voice now, a lightness that made her smile. "And how would you do that?" Travis pulled out a small knife from his pocket. "Do you have any scrap wood?" Intrigued, Zelda handed him a piece of pine from her supply pile. She watched as he sat down at her table and began to work, his knife moving with confident strokes. She busied herself with dishing up the chicken and dumplings, but kept glancing over to see what he was making. When he finally set down his knife about 10 minutes later, he held up a small carved piece for her inspection. It took her a moment to realize what she was looking at, and when she did, her breath caught. It was a simple carving of 2 sets of initials inside a heart, TK and ZV. "Too bold?" Travis asked, suddenly looking uncertain. "I did not mean to presume." "I just thought, it is perfect," Zelda interrupted, reaching out to take the carving. The wood was still warm from his hands. "It is absolutely perfect." The smile that spread across Travis's face was like sunrise. "Then may I carve my initials next to yours on something more permanent? Maybe on your porch railing or the door frame. I want everyone to know that I am courting you proper if you will have me." "Yes," Zelda said, her own smile matching his. "Yes to all of it." They ate dinner talking and laughing, the conversation flowing as easily as if they had known each other for years rather than days. Travis told her stories about growing up in Colorado, about Marcus's various mishaps and adventures, about their dreams for the ranch. Zelda shared her own stories, about learning to carve from her father, who had been a carpenter, about the different children in town and their personalities, about her hope to maybe one day open a small shop where she could sell her toys and other handmade goods. "You should do it," Travis encouraged. "I bet people would come from all over to buy your work." "Maybe someday," Zelda said, though the dream felt more possible now than it ever had before. After dinner, Travis retrieved the apple pie from his basket, and they ate it on the porch as the sun set in a blaze of orange and red. The evening air was cooling, bringing relief from the day's heat. "May I ask you something?" Travis said as they watched the colors fade from the sky. "Anything." "What made you decide to stay here after your aunt passed? You could have gone back to Missouri, tried to start over somewhere less remote." Zelda considered the question carefully. "I think part of it was stubbornness. I had already lost so much, and the idea of giving up and running away felt like losing even more. But also, there was something about this place that called to me. It is harsh and unforgiving, yes, but it is also honest. People here are real. They do not hide behind social niceties or pretend to be something they are not. And despite the hardships, there is beauty here if you know where to look for it." "I think you are part of that beauty," Travis said softly. "You bring light to this hard place." Before she could respond, he reached over and took her hand. His palm was warm and calloused against hers, and the touch sent electricity racing up her arm. They sat like that as darkness fell, hands linked, neither wanting to break the moment. "I should probably head back," Travis said eventually, regret clear in his voice. "Marcus will send out a search party if I am gone too much longer. He is worse than a mother hen sometimes. Will I see you again soon?" Zelda asked, hating how much she sounded like she was pleading but unable to help herself. "Wild horses could not keep me away." Travis stood but kept hold of her hand, pulling her gently to her feet. "How about Sunday after church? We could go for a ride, maybe have a picnic. I would love that." Travis lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. "Until Sunday then, Zelda Voss." She watched him ride away into the darkness, her hand still tingling where his lips had touched her skin. When she went back inside, she carried the small carving of their initials with her, setting it on the table beside her bed where it would be the last thing she saw before sleeping, and the first thing she saw upon waking. The next morning, Zelda was working on her porch as usual when she heard a horse approaching. Her heart leaped, thinking it might be Travis, but the rider was Marcus Keller, looking dusty and tired. "Miss Voss," he greeted, tipping his hat. "Sorry to bother you so early." "It is no bother, Marcus." "Is everything all right?" "Fine, fine." "Well, mostly fine. Travis sent me to ask if you would mind terribly if he postponed your Sunday plans. We have had some trouble with a few cattle breaking through our fence, and we need to spend the weekend rounding them up and repairing the damage." Zelda tried not to let her disappointment show. "Of course I understand. Ranch work has to come first." Marcus grinned. "He is going to owe me big for riding all the way out here to tell you this. He has been pacing around all morning, fretting about disappointing you." "I swear, I have never seen my brother so tangled up over a woman before." "He could have just told me on Sunday," Zelda said, though she was secretly pleased to hear that Travis had been concerned about her feelings. "And risk you thinking he stood you up. Not a chance. Travis might not say it out loud, but he is already planning a future with you, Miss Voss. I can see it in his eyes." "That is quite an assumption after one dinner," Zelda said, but her cheeks were warm. "Maybe so, but I know my brother. He does not do anything halfway. When he decides on something, he commits completely." Marcus adjusted his hat. "Anyway, he said to tell you he would come calling on Tuesday evening instead if that suits you." "It suits me fine. Tell him not to worry." After Marcus left, Zelda tried to return to her carving, but her mind kept drifting. Was Marcus right? Was Travis really thinking about a future with her? The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. She had been on her own for so long, had convinced herself that she was content with her solitary life. But Travis had awakened something in her, a longing for connection and partnership that she had tried to bury along with her parents. Sunday came and went. Zelda attended church, deflecting questions from the town's more curious residents about Travis's absence with vague statements about ranch work. On Monday, she delivered Sarah Mitchell's carved horse and was rewarded with the little girl's delighted squeals. On Tuesday morning, she started work on a new project, something she had never attempted before. She carved two figures, clearly meant to be a man and a woman, standing side by side. The details were intricate, challenging, and she worked with fierce concentration, determined to get it right. She was not sure what she would do with it when it was finished, but the need to create it was undeniable. Tuesday evening arrived with a summer thunderstorm, the kind that swept across the plains with dramatic suddenness. Zelda watched the darkening sky with concern, wondering if Travis would still come or if the weather would keep him away. She had just decided that he would be sensible and stay at the ranch when she heard knocking at her door. Travis stood there dripping wet, water running off his hat and coat. "Sorry I am late," he said with a sheepish grin. "Storm caught me halfway here." "Get inside before you catch your death," Zelda scolded, pulling him through the doorway. "What were you thinking, riding through this weather?" "I was thinking that I promised to see you today, and I was not about to break that promise." Travis removed his soaked hat and coat, hanging them by the door. "I missed you, Zelda. 3 days felt like 3 years. Her annoyance evaporated like rain on hot stones. "I missed you too." "But you are completely soaked. Let me get you a blanket." She retrieved the quilt from her rocking chair and draped it around his shoulders. They settled on the small sofa near the fireplace, which Zelda quickly lit to ward off the chill that had come with the storm. Thunder rumbled overhead and rain hammered against the roof. "This is cozy," Travis observed, moving closer to her. "I like your home, Zelda. It feels warm, lived in. Ours is still pretty sparse. Neither Marcus nor I have much talent for making a place feel like home." "It takes time," Zelda said. "And perhaps a woman's touch. Perhaps it does." Travis's arm found its way around her shoulders, and she leaned into his warmth without thinking. It felt natural, right, as if they had been sitting this way for years. They talked quietly as the storm raged outside about everything and nothing. Travis told her about the cattle they had rounded up, about his hopes for the ranch, about a letter he had received from an old friend in Colorado. Zelda shared her progress on the Mitchell horse and her new project, though she did not tell him what the new carving depicted. "You know," Travis said during a lull in the conversation, "I carved our initials on your porch railing this evening before I knocked. Hope that is all right." Zelda's heart swelled. "You did?" "I did. Right there on the post next to the steps. TK plus ZV. I want the whole world to know how I feel about you. And how do you feel about me, Travis Keller?" She turned to look up at him, searching his face. "I am falling in love with you," he said simply. "I know it is fast, probably too fast, but I cannot help it. Every time I see you, every time I think about you, I fall a little bit more. You are everything I never knew I was looking for." Tears pricked at Zelda's eyes. "I am falling in love with you too. It terrifies me, but I cannot deny it." Travis cupped her face gently in his hands. "May I kiss you?" "Yes," she whispered. His lips met hers softly at first, tentative, asking permission. But when she responded, wrapping her arms around his neck, the kiss deepened, becoming something more urgent, more passionate. It was Zelda's first real kiss, and she felt it all the way down to her toes, a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire crackling in the hearth. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Travis rested his forehead against hers. I want to marry you, Zelda. I know we need time to court properly to let you be sure, but I need you to know that is where my heart is headed. I want that too, she admitted. But you are right, we should take some time. People will already talk about how fast this is moving. Let them talk, Travis said fiercely. But I will respect your wishes. We will court properly, do things right. The storm eventually passed, leaving the air fresh and clean. Travis stayed until it was fully dark, talking and stealing kisses, reluctant to leave. When he finally rode away, Zelda touched her lips, still feeling the phantom pressure of his kiss. She looked at the porch railing where he said he had carved their initials, but it was too dark to see. She would look in the morning, would trace the letters with her fingers and marvel at how quickly her life had changed. The summer weeks passed in a blur of happiness. Travis came calling regularly, and Zelda visited the ranch where she met the growing herd of cattle and saw the improvements the brothers were making. She and Travis rode together across the plains, had picnics by the river, attended church socials side by side. He taught her to rope a fence post, and she showed him finer techniques for carving. They talked about everything, shared their dreams and fears, built a foundation of friendship alongside their growing love. The town watched with interest and, for the most part, approval. Sheriff Martin declared them the best matched couple he had seen in years. The children continued to adore Zelda, and soon Travis was helping her distribute the toys she made, carrying them into town when she had a new batch ready. One Saturday in late August, Travis arrived at her cabin looking serious. Zelda's heart clenched with worry as she invited him inside. "Is everything all right?" she asked immediately. "Everything is fine," he assured her, but he looked nervous. "I just need to talk to you about something important." They sat at her kitchen table, and Travis reached across to take both her hands in his. "Zelda, I know we have only been courting for a few months, but I meant what I said that night during the storm. I love you. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love someone. You make me laugh, you challenge me, you inspire me to be better. When I think about my future, you are in every vision, every dream." "Travis," Zelda breathed, tears already forming. "I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to build a life with you, have children with you, grow old with you. Zelda Voss, will you marry me?" He pulled a simple gold band from his pocket, clearly old but polished to a shine. "This was my mother's ring. My father gave it to me before he died, said to give it to the woman who made me believe in forever. That woman is you, Zelda. It has always been you." "Yes," Zelda sobbed, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I will marry you, Travis Keller. Nothing would make me happier." Travis slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly as if it had been made for her. Then he was kissing her, and she was kissing him back, both of them laughing with joy. "How soon can we do this?" Travis asked when they came up for air. "I do not want to wait. I have already waited my whole life to find you." "We should talk to Reverend Patterson," Zelda said practically, even as her heart raced with excitement. "He will need to read the banns, and I should make a dress, and what if we did it simply?" Travis interrupted. "Nothing fancy, just us and the people we care about. We could get married next month before the weather turns." "September," Zelda agreed. "The second Saturday in September. That gives us 3 weeks to prepare." "3 weeks," Travis repeated, pulling her onto his lap. "I can wait 3 weeks." Barely. The news of their engagement spread through Fort Stanton like wildfire. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with only a few sour matrons grumbling about unseemly haste. Zelda did not care. She was too happy to let anyone's disapproval dampen her spirits. She spent the next 3 weeks in a flurry of activity. She sewed a new dress from cream-colored cotton she purchased at Morrison's store, simple but beautiful with delicate embroidery at the collar and cuffs. Travis and Marcus worked to make the ranch house more comfortable, adding furniture and making repairs. The whole town seemed to be preparing for the wedding, with various families offering to contribute food for the celebration afterward. The night before the wedding, Zelda sat on her porch finishing the carved figures she had started months ago. They were complete now, two people standing side by side, hands linked. She had carved them with care, making the man tall with wavy hair and the woman shorter with long hair. They were not perfect representations, but anyone looking at them would know they represented her and Travis. She heard footsteps and looked up to see Travis approaching. "You are not supposed to see me the night before the wedding," she protested without heat. "Bad luck." "I do not believe in luck," Travis said, settling beside her. "I believe in us. What are you working on?" Zelda showed him the figures. "I wanted to capture this moment, this feeling, so that years from now, when we are old and gray, we can look at this and remember how we felt right now." Travis studied the carving, his expression tender. "It is beautiful. You are giving this to them?" "No, I made them for us." "Then I have something for you too." Travis pulled out a wooden box small enough to fit in his palm. "I have been working on this in secret. Marcus has been ribbing me about all the time I have spent locked in the barn." Zelda opened the box carefully. Inside was a carved wooden heart, no bigger than her thumb, with their initials intertwined in an intricate design. The craftsmanship was remarkable, detailed and precise. "Travis, this is incredible. I had no idea you could carve like this." "I have been practicing," he admitted. "You inspire me, Zelda. You make me want to create beautiful things." She set the box aside and kissed him thoroughly. "I love you so much. I love you too. And tomorrow, I get to call you my wife. Best day of my life, and it has not even happened yet." They sat together in companionable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Zelda thought about how far she had come from that grief-stricken girl who arrived in Fort Stanton 3 years ago. She had found purpose, community, and now love. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new chapter, one she could not wait to start. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, the September sun warm but not oppressive. Zelda woke early, too excited to sleep, and spent the morning getting ready. Mrs. Morrison and several other women from town came to help, fussing over her hair and dress, offering advice and well wishes. The ceremony was held at the church at noon. Zelda walked down the aisle alone, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers, her eyes locked on Travis waiting at the altar. He looked handsome in his best suit, his hair neatly combed, but it was the expression on his face that made her breath catch. He looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world, like he could not believe his good fortune. Reverend Patterson kept the service simple and heartfelt. When it came time for the vows, Travis's voice was strong and clear. "I, Travis Keller, take you, Zelda Voss, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you all the days of my life. I promise to be your partner, your best friend, and your strongest supporter. I promise to build a life with you that is filled with love and laughter and purpose." Zelda's voice shook with emotion as she spoke her own vows. "I, Zelda Voss, take you, Travis Keller, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you faithfully, to stand by your side through whatever comes, to be your home and your haven. I promise to laugh with you in times of joy and comfort you in times of sorrow. I promise to choose you every day for all of my days." When Reverend Patterson pronounced them husband and wife and told Travis he could kiss his bride, the kiss was sweet and tender and full of promise. The congregation erupted in applause, and Zelda felt tears of happiness streaming down her face. The celebration afterward was held in the churchyard, with tables groaning under the weight of food contributed by various families. There was dancing and music and laughter. Children ran around playing, several clutching toys Zelda had made. Marcus gave a rambling toast that embarrassed Travis and made everyone laugh. Sheriff Martin told stories about the early days of Fort Stanton, and various couples shared advice for a happy marriage. As the sun began to set, Travis swept Zelda into a dance, holding her close. "How are you doing, Mrs. Keller?" he asked, his voice warm with love. "I am perfect, Mr. Keller," she replied. "Absolutely perfect. Ready to go home." "Yes," she said, and realized she meant it completely. The ranch was her home now, not because of the building or the land, but because Travis was there. They said their goodbyes and rode together toward the ranch, Travis leading Clover while Zelda rode behind him on his horse, her arms wrapped around his waist. The evening air was cool and pleasant, and stars were beginning to emerge. The ranch house had been transformed in her absence. Marcus had clearly been busy, hanging lanterns that cast a warm glow, spreading fresh flowers on every surface, even managing to make the bedroom look romantic with candles and new linens. "Your brother is a good man," Zelda observed. "He has his moments," Travis agreed. "Though I should mention he has agreed to sleep in the barn for the next week to give us privacy." "The barn? Travis, we cannot ask him to do that." "You are not asking. He insisted. Said something about not wanting to hear any newlywed nonsense." Travis pulled her close. Now, where were we? Their wedding night was everything Zelda had hoped for, awkward and tender and passionate all at once. Travis was patient and gentle, and Zelda felt cherished in a way she never had before. They fell asleep tangled together, exhausted and happy. The weeks that followed were an adjustment as they learned to live together, to navigate the small disagreements and compromises that came with marriage. Travis left his boots in the middle of the floor, and Zelda used too much wood shavings that got everywhere. Travis liked his coffee strong enough to strip paint, and Zelda preferred hers weak. But these small irritations were nothing compared to the joy of waking up together every morning, of sharing meals and stories and dreams. Zelda continued to carve toys, setting up a small workshop in a corner of the barn. Travis would often join her in the evenings, working on his own projects while she worked on hers. They would talk or simply enjoy the comfortable silence, the scrape of their knives on wood a soothing rhythm. One evening in late October, Zelda was working on a particularly intricate carving of a horse and rider when Travis came to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "That is beautiful," he murmured. "Who is it for?" "The Dalton boy. He has been sick for weeks, and his mother said he is sad about missing the harvest festival. I thought this might cheer him up." "You have such a good heart," Travis said, pressing a kiss to her neck. "Have I told you today how much I love you?" "Only 3 times," Zelda teased. "You are falling behind." "Well then, I love you, I love you, I love you." Each declaration was punctuated with a kiss. There, all caught up, Zelda turned in his arms. "I love you too, so very much." "Zelda, I have been thinking about something." "What would you say about expanding your toy making into a real business? We could build you a proper workshop, maybe even look into selling your pieces in Santa Fe or Albuquerque. Your work is too good to just give away." "But I like giving them away," Zelda protested. "The children here need them." "And you could still do that," Travis assured her. "But you could also sell some pieces to support the work. Think about it. You could make even more toys for the children if you had better tools, more supplies. And if people are willing to pay for your art and it is art, Zelda, then why not let them?" Zelda considered the idea. It would be nice to contribute financially to their household rather than relying entirely on the ranch's income. And Travis was right that better tools would allow her to create more pieces. "Let me think about it," she said finally. That is all I ask." November brought the first hard freeze and news that both excited and terrified Zelda. She had been feeling ill in the mornings for about 2 weeks, and when Mrs. Morrison casually mentioned that she looked like she was carrying a child, everything suddenly made sense. She told Travis that evening as they were getting ready for bed. "I think I am pregnant," she said without preamble, watching his face carefully for his reaction. Travis froze in the act of removing his shirt. "You think? You are. We are going to have a baby, I believe so. It would make sense with the timing and the symptoms." "A baby," Travis repeated, and then his face split into the biggest smile she had ever seen. He crossed the room in 2 strides and lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. "We are going to have a baby. Zelda, this is incredible." His joy was infectious, and Zelda found her own fears melting away. "You are happy about this?" "Happy. I am over the moon. I am going to be a father." He set her down gently, suddenly concerned. "Are you all right? Should you be working so hard? Do you need to see the doctor?" "Travis, I am fine. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I do not need to be treated like I am made of glass." But Travis insisted on being extra careful with her anyway, taking over the heavier chores, making sure she ate well and rested often. Marcus was equally excited about becoming an uncle and drove them both crazy with his own brand of protective hovering. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the winter months. Zelda's morning sickness faded by December, replaced by a healthy appetite and growing energy. She continued to carve, though she switched to simpler projects as her belly grew. Travis worked with renewed vigor on the ranch, determined to make it as profitable as possible before the baby arrived. In January, Travis surprised her by unveiling a new workshop he had built with Marcus's help. It was attached to the barn with good light, plenty of storage, and a comfortable workspace. "For your business," he explained. "Marcus and I have already put word out in Albuquerque about your work. We have had 3 orders come in just this week." Zelda was overwhelmed. "Travis, this is too much." "It is not enough," he countered. "You deserve to have your talent recognized, and our child deserves to know that their mother is not just loving and kind, but also a skilled artist and businesswoman." The orders did start coming in, slowly at first but then with increasing frequency. Zelda found she enjoyed the challenge of creating commissioned pieces, though she never stopped making toys for the local children. Travis helped with the business side, handling correspondence and deliveries. By March, Zelda was heavily pregnant and uncomfortable, but happy. She spent her days alternating between resting and working on simpler carving projects. Travis had become even more attentive, if that was possible, anticipating her needs before she even voiced them. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Zelda felt the baby kick particularly hard. She grabbed Travis's hand and placed it on her belly so he could feel it too. "Strong kicks," Travis observed with a grin. "Going to be a rancher like his father." "Or a carpenter like her mother," Zelda countered. "Or both," Travis suggested. "A rancher who builds the best barns in New Mexico." "Or an artist who raises horses," Zelda added, and they both laughed. "I do not care what this baby becomes," Travis said, his expression turning serious. "As long as they are healthy and happy and know how much they are loved." "They will know," Zelda promised. "How could they not with you as a father?" Their daughter was born on a warm April evening in 1879, after a labor that lasted nearly 12 hours. Mrs. Morrison and 2 other experienced women attended the birth, while Travis paced outside the bedroom door, nearly driving Marcus insane with his worried muttering. When Zelda finally heard her daughter's first cry, strong and indignant, she burst into tears of relief and joy. The baby was perfect, with a cap of dark hair and her father's green eyes. "A girl," Mrs. Morrison announced, cleaning the baby and wrapping her in a soft blanket. Healthy and strong. Can I see her? Zelda asked, exhausted but eager. Mrs. Morrison placed the baby in her arms, and Zelda felt her heart expand in a way she did not know was possible. She had thought she understood love after meeting Travis, but this was something else entirely, something primal and overwhelming. She is beautiful, she whispered, tracing her finger over the baby's tiny features. Can I come in? Travis called from outside the door, his voice tight with anxiety. Come meet your daughter, Zelda called back. Travis burst through the door, Marcus close behind him. When he saw Zelda holding the baby, he stopped short, his eyes filling with tears. Is she all right? Are you all right? We are both fine, Zelda assured him. Come see. Travis approached slowly, as if afraid to disturb the moment. When he looked down at his daughter for the first time, a tear rolled down his cheek. She is perfect, he said hoarsely. Absolutely perfect. Want to hold her? Travis took the baby with extreme care, cradling her against his chest. Hello, little one, he murmured. I am your papa. And I promise to love you and protect you and make sure you always know how special you are. The baby yawned, showing toothless gums, and everyone laughed. Have you thought about names? Marcus asked, peering over his brother's shoulder at his niece. Zelda and Travis looked at each other. They had discussed names but never settled on anything definite. What about Catherine? Travis suggested. After your mother. Zelda's eyes filled with fresh tears. Her mother's name had been Catherine, and she loved that Travis wanted to honor her. Catherine Rose Keller, she said. Rose after your mother. Perfect, Travis agreed. Welcome to the world, Catherine Rose Keller. The first weeks with a newborn were exhausting and overwhelming and wonderful. Catherine was a good baby for the most part, though she had her father's stubborn streak and her mother's tendency to stay awake at odd hours. Travis was a devoted father, getting up for nighttime feedings, changing diapers without complaint, spending hours just holding his daughter and marveling at her. Zelda's carving business was put on hold temporarily, but she did not mind. These early weeks with Catherine were precious, and she wanted to savor them. Travis and Marcus handled the ranch work, and various women from town stopped by with meals and advice and offers to help. By summer, they had settled into a comfortable routine. Catherine was growing rapidly, becoming more alert and responsive. She would smile at her parents, making delighted cooing sounds that melted their hearts. Zelda slowly returned to her carving, working during Catherine's nap times, creating pieces that often incorporated elements inspired by her daughter. One evening in late June, Travis found Zelda in the workshop, working on a new piece. Catherine was asleep in a cradle nearby, one of Travis's old shirts serving as a makeshift blanket. What are you working on? He asked, settling onto a stool beside her. Zelda showed him the half-finished carving. It was a family, a man and woman with a baby between them, their hands linked. I wanted to capture this moment, she explained, this feeling of completeness. We should add something, Travis said suddenly, reaching for his own knife. May I, of course. Together they worked on the piece, their hands moving in practiced harmony. Travis carved a small house in the background while Zelda added details to the figures' faces. When they finally set down their tools an hour later, the piece was complete, a snapshot of their life together frozen in wood. It is beautiful, Zelda said softly. Like us. Better than us, Travis countered. Because it will last forever, a reminder of how much we love each other and this life we have built. He carved their initials into the base of the piece, just as he had carved them onto her porch railing that rainy evening over a year ago. TK. Plus ZV, together always. The years passed quickly, marked by milestones and memories. Catherine grew into a bright, curious toddler who loved following her father around the ranch and watching her mother carve. The ranch prospered, the herd growing steadily. Zelda's carving business thrived, with orders coming in from across the territory and beyond. In 1881, Zelda gave birth to their second child, a son they named Thomas after Travis's grandfather. Thomas was a completely different baby than Catherine had been, quieter and more serious, though he had his mother's expressive eyes. Catherine, now 2.5, was initially suspicious of this new addition but quickly became fiercely protective of her baby brother. Marcus, who had been living with them since their marriage, finally met a woman of his own in 1882, a widow named Sarah Collins who had moved to Fort Stanton with her young daughter. Travis and Zelda were delighted to see Marcus's happiness and hosted the wedding at the ranch the following spring. In 1884, Zelda had their third child, another daughter they named Margaret. By now, the ranch house had been expanded to accommodate their growing family, with new bedrooms and a larger kitchen. Zelda's workshop had also grown, and she had taken on an apprentice, a talented young man from town who wanted to learn the craft. Life was not without its challenges. There were droughts that tested the ranch's resources, illness that swept through the town, the constant worry that came with raising children on the frontier. But through it all, Zelda and Travis faced everything together, their love deepening with each passing year. One evening in the summer of 1885, Zelda sat on the porch watching the sunset, much as she had done countless times before. Catherine, now 6, was helping Travis with the evening chores. Thomas, age 4, played quietly with a carved set of animals Zelda had made him. Margaret, just over a year old, dozed in her lap. "You look content," Travis observed, settling beside her with Catherine perched on his shoulders. "I am," Zelda said simply. "More than I ever dreamed possible." Travis reached over and took her free hand, intertwining their fingers. "Remember that first day we met, when the sheriff brought me by to introduce us? I remember thinking you had the most beautiful eyes I had ever seen. I remember thinking you were the most interesting woman I had ever met, sitting there carving toys for children, so focused and determined. I wanted to know everything about you. And now you do," Zelda said with a smile. "And I love everything I have learned," Travis replied. "Every day with you is a gift, Zelda Keller, even the hard days, especially the hard days because we face them together." Catherine, who had been listening with the unself-conscious interest of childhood, piped up. "Papa, tell us the story about how you carved your initials next to Mama's." "That is a story about romance," Travis said in a mock-serious voice. "Not for little girls' ears." "I am not little," Catherine protested. "And I want to hear it." Thomas abandoned his toys and climbed into Zelda's lap next to his sleeping sister. "Story," he demanded in his quiet way. All right," Travis said, laughing. "It was a dark and stormy night." As Travis launched into an embellished version of their courtship, complete with dramatic gestures that made the children giggle, Zelda felt overwhelming gratitude wash over her. This was her life, this beautiful, chaotic, love-filled life. She thought about the lonely, grieving girl who had arrived in Fort Stanton all those years ago, and she wished she could tell that girl that everything would be all right, more than all right. That girl would find love and purpose and a family that filled her days with joy. The years continued to roll by, bringing more changes. Catherine grew into a skilled horsewoman who loved helping on the ranch but also showed an aptitude for her mother's carving. Thomas developed a talent for numbers and helped his father with the ranch accounts. Margaret, the baby, turned out to have her father's playful spirit and her mother's creative soul. In 1888, Zelda gave birth to their fourth and final child, a son they named James. By this time, Zelda was 31 and Travis was 35, and they agreed their family was complete. James was a happy, energetic baby who kept everyone on their toes. The ranch continued to thrive, becoming one of the most successful operations in the region. Zelda's carving business had evolved into something more than either she or Travis had imagined, with her pieces being sold in shops as far away as Denver and San Francisco. She still made toys for the local children, a tradition she never abandoned. But now she also created more elaborate art pieces and functional items like chairs and tables adorned with intricate carvings. In 1890, Fort Stanton celebrated its 30th anniversary, and the town organized a big celebration. Zelda and Travis attended with their 4 children, now ranging in age from 5 to 11. As they walked down the main street, Zelda noticed how much the town had grown. There were new buildings, more families, even talk of a railroad spur being built. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Travis observed, echoing her thoughts. "But some things stay the same," Zelda said, squeezing his hand. "We are still here, still together." "Always together," Travis agreed. That evening, there was dancing in the town square. Travis swept Zelda into a waltz, and for a moment they were transported back to their wedding day, young and full of dreams. Except now those dreams had been realized, exceeded even. "I love you, Zelda Keller," Travis said as they swayed to the music. "More today than yesterday and less than tomorrow." "I love you too," Zelda replied. "Thank you for carving your initials next to mine all those years ago. Thank you for choosing me." "Thank you for letting me," Travis said. "For taking a chance on a dusty cowboy with big dreams and not much else." "You had everything I needed," Zelda told him. "You still do." As the years turned into decades, Zelda and Travis watched their children grow into capable, kind adults. Catherine married a rancher from a neighboring county and started her own family while continuing to carve in her spare time. Thomas took over more and more of the ranch operations as Travis grew older, showing himself to be both shrewd and compassionate in his business dealings. Margaret opened a school in Fort Stanton, teaching both academics and art to the town's children. James, the baby, surprised everyone by becoming a lawyer, though he returned to Fort Stanton to practice after finishing his education. Marcus and Sarah remained close neighbors and dear friends, their own family growing to include 3 more children. The 2 families spent countless holidays and celebrations together, creating traditions that would be passed down through generations. In 1900, as the new century dawned, Zelda and Travis celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary with a party that seemed to include half of New Mexico. They were in their early 40s now, with silver beginning to show in Travis's dark hair and fine lines around Zelda's eyes. But when they looked at each other, they still saw the young people who had fallen in love on a summer day in 1878. 20 years, Travis marveled as they sat together on their porch later that night, the party finally over. "Feels like 20 days. And 20 lifetimes," Zelda added. "We have lived so much together." "Do you have any regrets?" Travis asked, his tone curious rather than worried. Zelda considered the question seriously. "Not one. Oh, there are things I might have done differently, moments I wish I had appreciated more in the present, but regrets? No. Everything led me to you, to this life, to our children. How could I regret any of that?" "I feel the same way," Travis said. He pulled out a small wrapped package from his pocket. "I made you something." Inside was a carved wooden box, similar in size to the one he had given her the night before their wedding but more elaborate. The lid was adorned with an intricate scene, a ranch house with 2 figures on the porch, surrounded by 4 smaller figures that clearly represented their children. Around the edge were carved words, TK plus ZV, forever and always. Travis, this is beautiful, Zelda breathed, running her fingers over the detailed work. You have gotten so much better over the years. I had a good teacher, he said. Open it. Inside the box was the original heart he had carved for her, the one with their initials intertwined, still as beautiful as the day he gave it to her. I know you keep this on your dresser, but I thought it deserved a proper home, a place to keep it safe. Zelda felt tears well up. Thank you. I have something for you too. She retrieved her own package from inside, carefully wrapped in cloth. Inside was a large carving, the most elaborate piece she had ever created. It showed the two of them, much as they were now, sitting side by side on a porch. But if you looked closely, you could see smaller carvings tucked into the background, scenes from their life together. Their wedding, the births of their children, Travis working the ranch, Zelda in her workshop, family dinners, quiet moments. It was their entire story told in wood and careful detail. Zelda, Travis said, his voice thick with emotion, this must have taken you months. Nearly a year, she admitted. I worked on it whenever I had a spare moment. I wanted to capture our life, our love. I wanted to show you what you mean to me. Travis set the carving down carefully and pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I am the luckiest man alive, he said into her hair. To have found you, to have built this life with you. You are my everything, Zelda. They held each other as the stars wheeled overhead, two people who had found in each other exactly what they needed. The wind whispered through the grass, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its mate. The New Mexico night was alive around them, but they were content in their own little world. The years continued their inevitable march. Grandchildren arrived, bringing new joy and chaos into their lives. The ranch passed primarily into Thomas's capable hands, though Travis remained involved well into his 60s. Zelda's carving evolved as her hands grew less steady, but she never stopped creating, finding new ways to express her artistic vision. In 1910, as they approached their 30th anniversary, Zelda and Travis took a rare trip away from the ranch, traveling by train to San Francisco, where a gallery was featuring an exhibition of her work. Catherine came with them, helping her mother navigate the social demands of the art world. At the gallery opening, Zelda stood surrounded by her carvings, each one telling a story. There were the whimsical toys that had started everything, the family scenes, the elaborate furniture pieces, the artistic works that defied easy categorization. But her favorite piece, the one she would never sell, was the large carving she had made for their 20th anniversary, showing her and Travis's life together. A critic approached her, notepad in hand. Mrs. Keller, your work is remarkable. Each piece has such emotion, such life. What inspired you to start carving? Zelda thought about that young woman sitting on a porch in Fort Stanton, alone and grieving, finding purpose in bringing joy to children. I suppose I started because I wanted to create happiness in a hard world, she said. I wanted children to have something to play with, something to make them smile. And now your work is in museums and private collections across the country, the critic noted. How does that feel? Gratifying, Zelda admitted. But my favorite pieces are still the simple toys I give to children. Those are the ones that matter most. Later that evening, as they walked along the San Francisco streets, Travis pulled Zelda close. You were magnificent tonight. I was so proud, watching everyone admire your work. It feels a bit surreal, Zelda confessed. Sometimes I still see myself as that girl carving on her porch, just trying to make ends meet. You were always destined for greatness, Travis said firmly. I saw it that first day. You have a gift, Zelda, and I am so glad you have shared it with the world. None of it would have happened without you, Zelda said. You believed in me, supported me, gave me the space and resources to pursue my passion. You are the reason I could become who I am." "We helped each other become who we were meant to be," Travis corrected. "That is what love does. It does not diminish or constrain. It helps you grow into your fullest self." They returned to Fort Stanton after a week, glad to be home, to be back in the life they had built. The ranch welcomed them like an old friend, familiar and comfortable. Their children and grandchildren came for Sunday dinner, filling the house with noise and laughter. As Zelda looked around the table at her family, at the life she and Travis had created, she felt profound contentment. This was success. This was what mattered. Not the galleries or the recognition, but these people, these relationships, this love that had grown and multiplied over the years. The decades of the 1910s and 1920s brought more changes. The world around them was transforming rapidly, with automobiles replacing horses, electricity coming to even remote areas like Fort Stanton. But on the ranch, life maintained a slower, steadier rhythm. In 1925, Zelda and Travis celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary surrounded by their 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and even 2 great-grandchildren. They were in their late 60s now, both showing the marks of age but still active and engaged with life. 45 years, Marcus said in his toast, his own hair now completely white. "I remember when Travis first saw you, Zelda. He came back to the ranch that day and told me he had met the woman he was going to marry. I thought he was crazy, but he was right. He knew." "I did know," Travis confirmed, reaching for Zelda's hand across the table. "The moment I saw her, everything clicked into place. Like I had been waiting my whole life without knowing what I was waiting for, and suddenly there she was." "Tell us the story again, Grandpa," one of the grandchildren called out. "About the initials," Travis laughed. "That story has grown in the telling over the years, but the heart of it is true. I carved our initials into Zelda's porch railing because I wanted everyone to know how I felt about her. I wanted to stake my claim, I suppose, though that makes it sound too possessive. I wanted to mark the moment to say to the world, this woman matters to me." "And the toys, Grandma?" another grandchild asked. "Tell us about the toys." Zelda smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "I carved toys because children needed them, because it made me happy to make them happy. I never imagined it would turn into anything more than that, but your grandfather saw potential in my work and encouraged me to pursue it." "She is being modest," Travis interjected. "Her talent would have been recognized eventually, with or without me. I just helped speed up the process." The party continued late into the night, with music and dancing and storytelling. When everyone had finally left and it was just the two of them again, Zelda and Travis sat on their porch, as they had done countless times over the decades. 45 years, Zelda said softly. "Sometimes it feels like we are still those young people just starting out. Other times I feel every one of those years in my bones." "I know what you mean," Travis agreed, "but I would not trade a single one of them, even the hard times, the losses, the struggles. They were all part of our journey." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The porch railing where Travis had carved their initials so many years ago was worn smooth from decades of hands trailing across it. But the initials were still visible, a testament to a love that had endured. The years moved on. In 1930, Travis's health began to decline. He was 77 years old and had lived a full, active life, but age was finally catching up with him. Zelda, at 73, remained remarkably healthy, though she had arthritis that made detailed carving difficult. Thomas had fully taken over the ranch by this point, running it with the same care and dedication his father had shown. The other children visited often, bringing their own families. The house was rarely empty, filled with the comings and goings of an extensive family. One evening in the autumn of 1932, Travis sat on the porch with Zelda, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders against the cool air. His breath came harder these days, and he tired easily. But his mind remained sharp, and his eyes still lit up when he looked at his wife. "Zelda," he said, taking her hand, "I need to say something." "What is it?" she asked, worried by the serious tone in his voice. "I am tired," he admitted. "More tired than I have ever been, and I do not think I have much more time." "Do not say that," Zelda protested, even as her heart clenched with fear. "You are fine, you just need rest." "No, love, listen to me." Travis squeezed her hand gently. "I have had a wonderful life, a life beyond my wildest dreams, and it has all been because of you. You made me a better man. You gave me a purpose beyond just surviving. You showed me what love really means." Tears streamed down Zelda's face. "You gave me all of that too. You saved me, Travis. I was so lost when we met, so alone. You gave me a home, a family, a reason to keep going." "We saved each other," Travis said. "And now we have this beautiful legacy. Our children, our grandchildren, this ranch, your art. We made something lasting, Zelda, something that will continue long after we are gone." "I am not ready to let you go," Zelda whispered. "I know. I am not ready either. But when the time comes, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you will keep living, keep creating. Do not let grief consume you. Honor what we had by continuing to find joy." "I promise," Zelda said, though the words tore at her heart. "But not yet, Travis, please, not yet." "Not yet," he agreed, pulling her close. "We still have time." They had 3 more months. 3 precious months of quiet mornings and gentle conversations, of their family gathered close, of saying goodbye. Travis passed away peacefully in his sleep on a cold January night in 1933, Zelda holding his hand, surrounded by their children. The grief was overwhelming. Zelda felt like part of her soul had been ripped away. They had been together for 54 years, had built an entire life together. She did not know how to exist without him, but she had promised to keep living, and she was determined to honor that promise. She threw herself into her carving with renewed vigor, creating pieces that expressed her grief and her love and her gratitude for the years they had shared. She spent time with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, passing on stories about their grandfather, about the ranch, about the early days of Fort Stanton. She created one final masterpiece, a carved memorial to Travis. It showed him as she remembered him best, young and strong and smiling, with his hand extended as if inviting someone to dance. Beneath it, she carved their initials one final time, TK plus ZV, forever and always. The piece was installed in the Fort Stanton town square, a tribute to a man who had been a pillar of the community. Zelda lived for another 12 years, passing away peacefully at the age of 88 in 1945. She was surrounded by her children and grandchildren, and her last words were about Travis, about how she could see him waiting for her. They buried her next to Travis on a hill overlooking the ranch, under a sky as big and blue as the love they had shared. On their shared headstone, their children had carved, at Zelda's earlier request, the same words Travis had put on that wooden box so many years ago. TK plus ZV, forever and always. The ranch continued to be run by their descendants for generations, and Zelda's carvings became collector's items, displayed in museums and private collections around the world. But the most treasured pieces remained in the family, passed down from parent to child, tangible reminders of a woman who had found purpose in bringing joy to others, and a man who had recognized her worth and helped her dreams become reality. In Fort Stanton, the story of Zelda and Travis became a local legend, a tale told to illustrate the power of love and partnership. Young couples would visit the memorial in the town square, touching the carved initials for luck. Children played with toys inspired by Zelda's original designs. The cabin where she had first carved on her porch was preserved as a historical site, and visitors could still see the porch railing where Travis had first carved his initials next to hers. Their story was one of love found in unexpected places, of two people who had come together and created something beautiful and lasting. It was a reminder that even in harsh environments, even in difficult times, love could flourish and dreams could be realized. They had carved their initials not just in wood, but in the very fabric of their community, leaving a legacy that would endure for generations to come. And so the story of the woman who carved wooden toys for children and the playful cowboy who carved his initials next to hers lived on, a testament to the enduring power of love, art, and the courage to build a life together in the wild, beautiful, unforgiving land of the American West.